Okay, welcome to episode 9 of One Look Megaminx OLL. Today we're going to be covering sets 12, 23, and 34. Just like in episode 6, these are all symmetrical sets. However, unlike that episode, the Algs here are a little bit slower. So these are the bad symmetrical cases, whereas those are the good ones. However, just like that episode, there's 10 cases here, and as always, all of the Algs that I mention will be listed down in the description, as well as links to a Megaminx OLL Trainer and my Megaminx Algs document, which contains all of the OLL and PLL Algs that I use and recommend. So with that out of the way, let's get into it. So first up we have set 23. Recognition of this set is super simple. We see that we have this top pattern, which looks just like set 29 that we covered in episode 6, but we also have this extra oriented corner sort of hanging off the side, so it looks a bit different. And as far as differentiating these cases goes, super straightforward. 23A has headlights, and 23B has no headlights. So pretty easy, I think. As for the algorithms, they're both, 23A is a little bit faster, but they're both just basic IUF triggers that should be really easy to learn. So 23A, we're going to do from this angle, with the headlights in the back left, and the algorithm looks like this. R, U2, with your left index, R prime, then inverse sexy, U2 prime, sledge. Right, so basically just 3 super basic IUF triggers, and it's a very nice algorithm. There you go. As for 23B, we're going to do it from this angle, so the angle where it's like, you can see it's symmetrical left to right, and it looks like this. R, U2 prime, R prime, U prime, hedge, then U prime with my left middle, and then R, U prime, R prime, right? Just like that. So once again, just very basic IUF triggers, and that's set 23. And then next up we have set 34. This is 34A, B, C, and D. There are also 2 E cases, which means there's 6 cases overall in this set. These are just the first 4 here, but we'll look at the E cases after this. You can see that set 34 is the one that has this top pattern here, right, where we have this L, E, O, and then one extra oriented corner. And then as far as differentiating between these cases goes, it's pretty straightforward, but might be a little bit slow at first, just because there's 2 things we're checking for. So the first thing is, are there any bars? If there's 2 bars, like here or here, then it's B or D. If there's no bars, then it's A or C, right? And then we're looking for, are there any headlights? So here, where there's bars and headlights, this is 34B. Bars and no headlights, 34D. No bars and no headlights is 34A. And no bars and headlights is 34C. So pretty straightforward recognition, but might just take a little bit to get used to, because it is, 2 things to check for. But once you practiced it, it'll be fast enough. Anyway, as for algorithms, none of them are super fast. They're all a bit long, but these first 3, 34A, B, and D, should, I think, be pretty easy to learn because they all work in basically the same way. And it's a way that can be understood intuitively. So what do I mean by that? Well, let's show you. So this first case, 34B, we're going to do from this angle, right, with the oriented corner in the front right, and the algorithm looks like this. Hedge, U2 prime, R, U prime, R prime, U prime, R, U prime, R prime. So what's going on here is that we're doing a hedge to orient these 2 edges, and then we're just solving this winter variation case that we're left with, right? And so if you know that winter variation case, that helps, but if not, I think it should still help you learn it a bit more easily. So you can see, not super fast, but intuitive and I think pretty easy to learn. As for this next case, 34D works in the exact same way. So oriented corner in the front right, start with a hedge, and then solve this winter variation case, like that. So if you don't know it, it's going to look like this. Hedge, U, R, U, R prime, U, R, U2, R prime, right? Just like that. Then next we have 34A, and again, works in the same way. So from this angle, we do hedge, and then this winter variation case. So if you don't know it, that looks like this. U, R, U, R prime, inverse sexy, U, R, U2, R prime, right? So it looks like that. So kind of long, but not too bad. And then finally we have 34C. So for this case, there's 2 options that I think are a similar speed. They're both from this angle, right, with the oriented corner in the sort of back right. And the first option, which I think is going to be the fastest for most people, but I don't personally use, just because I'm personally a little bit slow at it, but it looks like this. R prime, U2 prime, R, U, F prime, R prime, U, R2, U, R prime, U2 prime, F prime, right? Just like that. So I'm not amazing at that algorithm, but I think it's probably going to be faster for most people. It's just I'm personally a little bit faster with the other one. So the other one is from the same angle, like this, and it looks like this. R, U, R prime, U, sledge, then U, R, U, 2 prime, R prime, U, R, U, 2 prime, R prime, right? Just like that. So it's a little more TPS spammy. It's, yeah, longer, but I think more ergonomic, and for me personally, I find it to be faster. But yeah, try them both out and see which one works for you. And then we have the last two set 34 cases, 34E plus and 34E minus. These of course have the same top pattern as the rest of the set, but here we just have one bar, right? In 34E plus, that bar's on the right hand side, and for 34E minus it's on the left hand side. So they're of course mirrors, as always. As for algorithms, this first one, 34E plus, we're going to do from this angle, so the bar on the right, and it looks like this. Hedge, U2, R prime, U prime, R2, then U prime with our left middle finger, and R2 prime, U2, R. So pretty basic finger tricks, I think, and, you know, a decent algorithm. And then for 34E minus, there's two options. The first option that I personally find fastest is to do the back mirror of the previous alg. So that would be from this angle with the bar on the right hand side, and would look like this. Back hedge, U2 prime, R, U, R2 prime, U, with your right ring, R2, U2 prime, R prime, right? So just like that. So I actually find this a little bit faster than 34E plus, but the finger tricks are obviously a little bit more complicated. So if you're not a huge fan of BR moves, then there's another option, an RUF option that you might prefer, and that's from this angle. And it looks like this. Hedge, inverse sexy, back anti-soon. So it's just a combination of two OLLs you already know, and the finger tricks are more basic, but I personally find it to be a bit of a slower alg. But I guess try both of them out and see which works for you. Anyway, that's set 34. And then finally we have set 12. So I recognize these cases being kind of like set 7, which we learned way back in episode 1, which if you don't remember were the T shapes, so F sexy, F prime, and sexy sledge. However here they're missing this oriented corner, right? So rather than the bottom part of the T being this big block, it's sort of splits into two, right? Because it's just two edges here rather than, you know, the corner as well. So that's how you recognize it at set 12, and then of course they're mirrors, right? So 12 plus has this bar on the right hand side, and then 12 minus has this bar on the left hand side. So pretty straightforward recognition. As for algorithms, this first one, 12 plus, we're going to do from this angle, so the bar on the back right, and it looks like this. F, R, U prime, R prime, then U2, with your left index, R, U, R prime, U, which you drag with the right ring, and R, U prime, R prime, F prime. So it's kind of long, but flows pretty well, so it's, you know, a decent enough case. And I don't mess it up. There we go. Yeah, decent case. And then finally we have 12 minus, which we do from this angle, so the bar on the right hand side, and it looks like this. R prime, U2 prime, R, U prime, R prime, U, F prime, U, F, which I do with my left index finger, and then U with my right middle to avoid the reload, and then R. Just like that. So I find this doesn't flow quite as nicely as 12 plus, but it's a bit shorter, so it sort of, you know, balances out. Anyway, that's today's episode.